So happy all of you are here today. We have some special guests with us. I just want to acknowledge them. Pastor Antonio and Vincenzo here from Italy. Thank you guys for being here today. Wonderful to have you. You know, there's other groups. I think there's a group from Trinity here, some students from Trinity, a group from South Africa. Welcome as well. And dear friends of mine, I don't always point out individuals, but in this case, there are some people in your life who touch you personally. And the Lord uses them in your life at just the right moment when you need a fresh, cold drink of water spiritually. Anybody ever had a blessing like that in your life? Yeah, amen? They're here tonight, and I don't know where they're sitting exactly. I think they're here somewhere, but Barry and Bonnie Goldberg, I don't know if you made it here from Maryland. Are you here? There you are. Don't hide. I see you now. Yeah, they're all pointing you out. Bless you guys. I love you. I know I thanked you privately, but I wanted to thank you publicly as well. So glad you're here. And Barry, I hope your recruiting trip went very well. Listen, we're going to dive into the Word of God tonight. So go ahead and turn to Genesis chapter 29 and 30. And I also want to welcome all of those watching on King's Community Live and Facebook Live tonight around the world. Welcome to Jerusalem. And for all of you members of King of Kings, welcome home. It's a big week for us. We have a community fair tonight. This is where you get to serve the Lord in bringing your talents, in bringing your gifts to the Lord. Where will you find tonight to plug in and help us build the kingdom here in Jerusalem? That's what the community fair is about tonight also. You can find a community group to be a part of. I say often here at King of Kings, you will not truly feel like you're part of this congregation until you go to a community group, because so many things flow through our community groups and our small groups. So if you're not part of one, make sure you join us in the Celebration Center after service for that. A couple of weeks away, the Purim party is coming, so get your costumes ready. You heard about that. We've got a wonderful night planned. And then if you don't have a family to join for Passover and you don't have a community group to join for Passover, consider joining us for the Community Passover Seder. Go online, kkcj.org, and buy your tickets there in advance. We're in Genesis chapter 29 and 30. We've been in a series called The Father's Blessing, or What a Father Sees. And we're looking at not only what the Heavenly Father sees in us, but we want to look specifically at the blessings of Jacob over his 12 sons. You see, in Jewish culture and Jewish tradition, it's a big thing when you lay your hands on someone and you pronounce a name over them and you say to them, I believe I've heard from God what your name should be, and you're proclaiming a certain amount of destiny over them. Power for their life, so that every time you speak their name out loud, you're confessing that prophetic message over their life again and again and again. And in the Bible, this is a big thing. As we look at the sons of Jacob, we've already talked about Reuben, the firstborn, and Simeon and Levi, and Judah and Zebulun and Issachar, and these are the sons of Leah, of course. And then last week we introduced Dan, and I'm going to bring Dan back into the group that we're talking about tonight, because I'm going to talk about 3 different sons tonight, and I'm going to add Dan back to them. And there's a reason. It's because we're done with the sons of Leah, and we're now dealing with the sons of the 2 wives that used to be servants. That's Dan and Naphtali, Asher and Gad. And we're going to deal with those 4 collectively tonight. And notice that Rachel, remember, Jacob had 4 wives. Can I get an amen? You can always tell whose marriage is going well. You know what I mean? Rachel's having trouble conceiving. And so there is this alternate strategy that is coming forth, and we're going to read about it a little bit tonight. But as we are looking at these sons, as we're looking at what God is speaking over them, we notice 3 different ways that they are receiving a blessing and or a prophetic word. The first way is that their parents are naming them, and you can find all of their names and what their meaning of their names are in Genesis chapter 30. Then you'll find the blessing of Jacob himself when he speaks with the laying on of hands in Genesis 49, the blessing of Jacob. And later in Deuteronomy chapter 33, you'll see that Moses speaks a blessing over each tribal son, over all of their descendants as well. And so there's 3 different ways you can put these together and study a little bit more. I challenge you to take those 3 study group types to your community groups this week and discuss them. Discuss what the Lord is saying to each son and what they mean. As you study those names and those blessings, you're going to find some that are very enriching, and there's a lot to discuss there. And others are so obscure. They're so short. There's really not much to go on. There's not much to say, well, God, you're revealing so much about this son. You call him a deer, and that's it. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if there's any deep revelation the Lord gave me when you called him a deer. Right? And so tonight, what the Lord showed me was this. When we look at these 4 sons tonight, rather than look at their names only, what Jacob pronounced over them only, and what Moses pronounces over their tribe only, the Lord showed me that these 4 boys were really the forefront of something that was really going on in the background. Because they're only born because of something that was going on in the background. They're a product of something else that was happening. And that's what I want to look at tonight. I've entitled tonight's sermon, The Rivalry. We mentioned Dan last week, and the Lord pronounced over Dan through his father Jacob that he will be the judge of Israel, and he will bring justice to the nation. But Naphtali is the son of Bilhah. And remember who this is. Remember that Rachel is having trouble conceiving, and so she's been given a maidservant. She turns that maidservant around and gives the maidservant to Jacob and says, take this as your wife. I can't have children for you, but maybe she can. And Bilhah has Naphtali. And then we notice that even though Bilhah has the son, Rachel swoops in and names him. The mom didn't even get to name him. That's indicative of something else that's going on. There's another piece of this story that's happening. And we're going to pull the curtain back tonight and look at it. We can look at what is the background story of his name. It says, Naphtali is a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. Okay. That's what he is. He's a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. I don't know what that means, people. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure that if I'm Naphtali and Jacob lays his hands on me and he says, son, come here, I've got a special word for you. You're a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. I'm thinking, Dad, you got to have something better than that. I'm not leaving this tent until you give me something better than that. Because when I go outside, my brother's going to say, what did he say to you? And I'm not telling them I'm a doe that's beautiful fawns. Dad, let me help you. Here's a couple of suggestions I would have. Dad, I'm full of muscles and I'm rock hard and I'm going to defeat nations. Dad, would you speak that over me? No, son, you're a doe. You're like a fawn galloping in a field of lilies. I have no idea. I don't know. In Deuteronomy 33, Moses then speaks the blessing over all of the tribes, and about Naphtali he says, Naphtali is abounding with the favor of the Lord and is full of his blessing. He will inherit southward to the lake. Well, it got a little better there for him. It's an improvement. His name means wrestling or to wrestle. And without the background story, none of this really makes sense. It's just kind of random words. He's a doe, he's wrestling, he's got property by a lake. I don't know what this means. Is he a doe jumping by the lake? I don't know. So Dan and Naphtali are born from Bilhah, the servant of Rachel that she gave to Jacob. And once she became Jacob's wife, she was elevated out of a servant's role into a wife's role. And we know that that's significant in the covenant of Israel because they get a blessing and they get land. They're not the children of servants anymore. They're the children of the covenant promise. God elevated them out of that maid-servant level into a wife level. We can move on. And so Rachel gives Jacob the maidservant, has some sons, and then Leah jumps in. Remember, there's four ladies. Leah jumps in, and she's like, well, if you're going to give him a maidservant, I'm giving him a maidservant. And she gives Zilpah to Jacob and says, I give you a wife. And Jacob and Zilpah have Gad and Asher. And here's the blessing that Jacob speaks over Gad. Gad will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heel. I got nothing. I don't want to come out of the tent with that one either. God, you got to say something else to my dad. He's going cuckoo. He doesn't know what to say anymore. Asher. Asher's food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king. He's a chef. I don't know. That's what I'm guessing. He's a chef. He has a TV show, you know. And you can go read about all of these backgrounds, their names. Asher's name means happy. God's name means what a good fortune. You know, I found that one ironic because the dad blesses him and he says, Gad, you'll be attacked by a band of raiders and your name will be what a good fortune. These boys have got to be confused at this point. But all of this, these four boys are only here because of a background story. I want to tell you a little bit about that background story. There's a rivalry going on that the Bible describes between Leah and Rachel. And the rivalry takes their eyes off of God for a while. It even takes their eyes off their husband. They kind of get consumed with each other. And there's been some great rivalries in history, right? Tesla and Edison fighting for the supremacy of electricity. And who would win? Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were fighting over who would be the most renowned artist of the age. Sparta and Athens, these great ancient cities, states that would fight for hundreds of years. Now that's when you really don't like someone. I read an interesting article this week about Rudy and Adi Dassler. They were brothers who opened a shoe company together, and they started fighting so ferociously in this shoe company that they split, and they each opened up their own shoe company, and they competed against one another. One of them opened up the Puma shoe company, and the other one opened up Adidas. I'm probably a proud dad of those two boys. I got two wonderful companies out of that one. Hallelujah. Bring money to the family, boys. I may look a little tired to you. I may look like I have red in my eyes at the moment. Don't zoom in with the camera too close. That's because I stayed up late last night watching one of the great rivalries in college basketball. Duke and North Carolina. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. It didn't go my way. We've given you the background of Leah and Rachel and Bilhah and Zilpah. And what's happening with these boys is the forefront of really a background story. But there is a rivalry going on. There is something consuming this family. There is a decay hurting this family. And these sons are some of the fruit of it. Listen to a few of these verses. If you want to follow along, I'm in Genesis chapter 30. I'm going to read verse 4 through 8 to begin. So Rachel gave Jacob her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob slept with her, and she became pregnant and bore him a son. And then Rachel said, God has vindicated me. He has listened to my plea and given me a son. Because of this, she named him Dan. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, I have had a struggle with my sister, and I have won. And so she named him Naphtali. That's an interesting way to name your children, right? I'm struggling with my sister. His name means wrestle. Wrestle. And I'm fighting with my sister. I'm in a feud with my sister, so let me name a kid after that. That just seems like an odd thing to name your child, right? Somebody cut me off on the way over here today. I'm going to name a child after that. I'm going to name the child, I was cut off. I felt like a couple of weeks ago I took my car to get the inspection, the annual inspection, and they, you know what? Are there any auto mechanics in the house before I say this? No one will admit that? Okay, good. You know how you feel if you're with me, you take your car in, and the report that comes back is, you're lucky your car is still moving because everything's wrong with your car. Like, I don't even know how you got to the mechanic because everything's wrong with your car. You need 50 things fixed, and it's going to cost you all your money in the bank. You leave the auto mechanic feeling like you got gypped. I don't want to name a kid like that. I got gypped. So I named the kid. My wife is pregnant when I got gypped. I'm naming him I got gypped. I got robbed. But this is how they're naming the children. Something's going wrong here. The early sons are getting all the good names. And I don't know if they were running out of names or they're just so mad at each other. They started using the names of the boys to get back at each other. That's how big of a rivalry this was. She says, I had a great struggle with my sister. And then here comes the jab, and I won. And there's the name of the boy. Now we notice that Rachel says, God has vindicated me. I won a struggle with my sister. We're introduced to this feud now. Now we're deep into it. We got to learn more. For those of you that don't know the story, maybe you're young in the faith. These two girls, Leah and Rachel, have a father named Laban. And Laban had promised Rachel to Jacob if he would work 7 years for his company. So Jacob worked 7 years, and instead of getting Rachel on the wedding day, apparently no one was checking. It's a thicker veil than I remember at my wedding. Somehow Laban slips Leah into the wedding. Jacob wakes up the next morning so innocent. Oh, Jacob. Oh, my goodness, what did you do? You gave me a different woman. Pay a little bit of attention. I don't know. Did she smell the same at the altar? Was she the same height? I mean, these weren't identical twins, so I'm sure there was a little bit going on that you could have noticed. But Laban deceived Jacob, and he slips Leah in instead of Rachel, and then he tells Jacob he has to work another 7 years for Rachel. And it sets off this chain of events. So I want to read you some of the events that set off. Listen to this. Genesis 29. I went back a chapter. Genesis 29. I'm going to start reading in verse 30. And Jacob's love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah. And he worked for Laban another 7 years. And when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, did you catch that? Not loved as a wife. He enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. And Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she named him Reuben. For she said, it is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simeon. And again she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, this time I will praise the Lord. And so she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children. Hopefully you caught the same concerning words that I caught in studying this passage. First, she says, I'm living a life of misery. I'm not loved. He loves Rachel more than me. I'm having all these sons. Maybe he will attach himself to me. At last, he might love me. And you can see the pain that Leah is living in. She's living in pain. On the other side of the rivalry, you have Rachel, who's still upset that her sister got to marry her husband first. Compound that pain with the fact that she can't have children. You have two women that are living in misery and pain. And they're at odds and angry with each other, and they're starting to take it out on one another. Rachel can't have children. She gives Bilhah to Jacob. Leah is actually pretty fertile, and yet when she stops having children, she does kind of a one-up, and she one-ups Rachel by giving Zilpah. Well, I know I've already had a bunch of sons, but let me throw a little gasoline on that fire. And the rivalry intensifies. Genesis 30, verse 9 and 10. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. And Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And then Leah said, "What good fortune." So she named him Gad. It was good fortune that another son was born. I also find it interesting that they don't let the new wives who had these sons get to name the sons. That's how deeply entrenched they were to the pain and to the problem, that they were going to name these sons. And they started to use the sons' names as a jab back at one another. I'm going to name this son, I struggle with my sister and I beat her. That's a jab. I'm going to name this son, what good fortune that I've had another boy, since you can't have any. And that's another jab. And the rivalry continues. Genesis 30, verse 14 and 15, we continue in the story. During the wheat harvest, Reuben went out to the fields and found some mandrake plants, which he brought to his mother Leah. Rachel, the sister, said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "Wasn't it enough that you took my husband away from me?" This pain goes deep. Now they can't even pick fruit without talking about it. Can I have some? I'm sorry, you took my husband. We got a big family problem now. And can I just remind everybody in the house tonight, this is not an ordinary family. This is the family of the covenant promise of God and all the tribes of Israel. And we got big problems in this family. Was it enough that you took my husband away from me? Will you take my son's mandrakes also? Very well, Rachel said, he can sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes. Using one another like pawns. Leah feels like Rachel took her husband away from her because she was the firstborn. And Rachel feels the same about Leah. Who should have been married first? Who did Jacob really love? Rachel feels like Leah and the father Laban conspired to trick Jacob. And they're fighting for the love of this man. Rachel's pain is clarified even more in Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she became jealous of her sister. And so she said to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." I don't know about you, I don't want to be Jacob anymore. I'm out. I don't want any part of this. I got ladies fighting, yapping, talking, pointing, naming sons bad names at each other. I got one saying, "Hey, can I have some mandrakes?" "No, you stole my husband." You got a lot of attitude, pain, misery. Probably not a lot of communication in the tents anymore. If you envision what I envision they're still living in tents, right? I don't think there's a lot of communication, a lot of emails going back and forth in those tents. Let's name him Dan. God has vindicated me. Let's name him Naphtali. I've struggled with my sister and I won. Later, when Rachel actually has a miracle in her own body and she has a son, we're going to get to that next week with Joseph. This is what she says about Joseph. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son and said, God has taken away my disgrace. The adjectives, the words that are being used, they're so full of pain and disappointment and fighting. What is God doing here? Did he pick the wrong family? Did he make a mistake? Can he really use these people? Because at this point, I'm not sure he can. If I'm Dr. Phil, that was an American joke. And this family comes to me, we got like a 5-part episode coming. I got to dig deeper into this a little bit. Disgrace, misery, struggle. Now, some of the lessons that we learn from these stories show us how complicated the family of Jacob is. Jacob was tricked by Laban, married Leah, that set the two girls off. The wives both feel cheated. Their husband's been stolen from them. They're competing for Jacob's love. You can see it in the writings. They jab at one another using the names of the sons. They include the maidservants. They start getting other people involved in this rivalry. It's complicating things. And if that were not enough, can I remind you of the oldest son, Reuben, actually slept with one of his stepmothers. I don't know if this is getting any worse. I mean, I think if you're making up a story, how bad can I make a family look? I think you probably have hit it with this family right here. This family could have their own TV show and everybody would think it was hilarious. He sleeps with one of the stepmothers, and now the rivalry starts digging deeper into the sons. He slept with the stepmother. You know what that means? He slept with one of his brother's mothers. You think that didn't come up at dinner sometime? What an example our Holy Father Jacob is showing to his boys. Again, not an ordinary. These are the tribes of Israel. And Jacob is having to steer this ship somehow. It's complicated. It's painful. Can I challenge you tonight with a couple of words? Yes, Jacob was blessing Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And you can go study those blessings. But those boys only exist because of a background rivalry. That rivalry produced them, Bilhah and Zilpah. And that background rivalry is decaying this family that God is trying to use. A lot of pain is going on. Let's make this personal. What is your family like? Some of you may have come from just very clean-cut, textbook, greatest families in the world. Some of you may have come from such troubling situations it's even hard to talk to a counselor about. Maybe there's pain when you recount your story in your childhood. Maybe it's even hard to talk about it. Abuse, neglect, disengagement, divorce, abandonment. What kind of history do you have? Can I remind everybody, just in case there's someone in the house tonight that doesn't know the Lord Yeshua as your personal Savior and King? Just in case you're visiting tonight or watching online and He's not your Lord yet, I want to remind you that this auditorium tonight is full of imperfect, broken, and messed up people. Would you raise your hand if you fit into that category at all? Just so we can see one another? Good. If you're not a believer in Yeshua yet, I wanted you to see that just about everyone in the room would admit that at some level we are imperfect, broken, and messed up, and we come from broken and messed up families. That's why the statistics of divorce are going off the charts now. If you've remained married, you are now in the minority. Did you know that? If you've remained married more than 10 years, you're in the minority. Good news. Romans chapter 5, verse 8. But God demonstrates His own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, the Messiah died for us. While Jacob's family was mired in this rivalry that was decaying all of them, wives and sons, while they were stuck in this pain and misery, the Messiah died for them. You say, how's that possible? Historically, Messiah hadn't come yet. Yes, but in God's sovereign wisdom, He knew the time and the date in which He would die for humanity. And He was giving that revelation to the patriarchs so that they could have faith in the sacrificial system that was in front of them. That while we were yet sinners. You see, friends, we don't clean up our life and then we present ourselves to God and say, aren't you so proud of me? I've told that story before that I like to go work out at the gym every once in a while, and I had a friend I was inviting to come to the gym to work out. And he said to me, I can't go to the gym. And I said, why not? He said, I'm not strong enough. I said, well, I don't think you understand what it is we do at the gym. We're going there because we're not strong enough either. That's why we're going to the gym. We don't do our best to clean up our lives and make it all perfect and then say, God, aren't you so happy with me? You come to the place where you say in an honest heart moment, I'm imperfect, I'm broken, and I'm messed up. God, what do you want to do with that? And God will do for you and your family what He did for this covenant family. Somehow, some way, through His miraculous move and His touch and His Spirit, He took this crazy rivalry, messed up thing and made the patriarchs of Israel. Romans 15 says, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Look at what God can redeem. Where is this hope? Where does it come from and where do we put it? It comes only from the Lord Himself. And we put it only in the Lord Himself. What God did for the family of Jacob, do you understand that this family is just a microcosm of what God had to do for this planet? Do you understand that? Guys, we came into what should have been a great situation. It should have been a great family. And immediately, from the beginning, we messed it up. From the very beginning, Laban and Leah and Rachel, they messed it up right at the wedding. Right at the very beginning. And all of the rest is fallout from that until God intervenes. That's what we did to the planet. That's what we did to the creation. Right from the beginning, we messed it up with sin and disobedience. And we never could find our way out of it. But we hold to the truth and the hope. Not that we can do anything. But we hold on to this hope that God demonstrates His own love toward us, and that while we were yet sinners, the Messiah died. He died so that we didn't have to. He paid a price that we couldn't afford. He redeemed a people that couldn't redeem ourselves. Look what God can do. Look what He can redeem. Out of this family, out of this story, God brought all 12 tribes of Israel to life. Out of this story, out of this family, He brought the nation of Israel and its borders. Out of this family, He brought the covenants of the Jewish people, the laws of God, the Torah. Do you know from this family he brought the line of the Messiah himself? From this story, God was able to take maidservants and bring them up to the position of covenant wife and include them in the covenant history. From this story, God was able to take a barren woman and bless her with a son that would save a nation. That's what God can do. That's the hope that we put all of our trust on. So tonight, I don't know what family you come from. I don't know how your parents named you or why they named you that. I'm trusting it's better than these boys. But I want you to leave here tonight knowing that God sees you.